Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring Steven Universe, Miraculous Ladybug, New Powerpuff Girls, and Archer. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Mel Moyer.
Hello.
Today, Mel and I will be discussing the latest episode of Archer, Bel Panto Part 2. We've been discussing Archer every week here on the Overly Animated Podcast, and you can check out our previous Archer discussions at overlyanimated.com. Subscribe to us by searching for the Overly Animated Podcast. You could just subscribe to just our Archer podcast with the Archer specific feed, which you can see at overlyanimated.com. As always, our Archer podcasts are not appropriate for younger audiences, much like the show we are covering. However, the rest of the podcasts at Overly Animated in general are. Let's get into Bel Panto Part 2. I already, having just read the AV Club review, I already foresee some controversial opinions or differing opinions on this one. Mel, what did you think of this episode?
I don't like the clowns.
Aw.
And the clowns were like the centerpiece this time around.
Is this like a go back to your childhood thing, like a phobia of clowns? Or
No, I'm not like scared of clowns. I just thought they were like really dumb.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of this episode at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like? I mean, I think we were both like, we like kind of liked part one, right?
Yeah, I liked part one until I liked the party sequence of part one before the clown showed up.
Mm-hmm.
This one, like, I understand the sort of, like, I like the concept of, like, of all of them being, like, the hostages left over, and then they're all switching into different clown outfits. And we see J.K. Simmons' character outside, and with the, like, negotiating for hostages situation. Like, I like the concept, I was not a fan of, like, what was his name? The main clown.
I don't remember the main clown's name. Yeah,
he was annoying as crap. Like
they didn't really do anything with him. I thought there was going to be something interesting. I guess they were like,
no, they didn't really go anywhere.
I guess they're former actors at the end. So that's I don't even know
the idea.
Yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. So it's hard because I agree that a lot of the clown stuff was like ultimately unsuccessful because it didn't really go anywhere. I feel like if Bel Panto part 2 is not a good episode of Archer, like I'm not sure what is anymore. I don't know. Mm-hmm. For me, I felt like this is the most I've laughed at Archer in a while. In that regard, which is I've said before, this is that's the primary thing that I judge Archer on at this point.
This is true.
That I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I think that you can still try to I feel like Archer's just pretty consistent with its level of characterization, and it's not doing anything too out there like narrative wise. It's just kind of consistent in that regard, and it's like it's familiar and we've been done. So I don't know. It's just like how funny is the show for me at this point, which is not not right or wrong, but I felt like this was the funniest episode of the season for me. It wasn't necessarily consistently funny, but there are solid 3 scenes which I just thought were very funny. And usually in Archer there's like one scene, I think like there's been one scene in the season that I'd say was like very, very funny, and I feel like that tripled this episode. So I guess I was a pretty big fan of this episode, although it's not like I bought into kind of everything that happens. I think the it was an interesting direction to go to have Pam and Lana also do the take over the clown like thing idea, and I wouldn't have expected that was the direction, like in addition to Archer, and then they meet up and then they use it for like character development between Archer and Lana and stuff like that, and Pam's also there for some reason, and I didn't think any of that was particularly great. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I thought it was kind of interesting narratively. But like that's not like the reason why I liked the episode. The reason why I liked the episode was the slow-mo scene at the end I thought was really good. Yeah, like
that was pretty funny.
I thought that scene was just like uncharacteristically like funny for current Archer. Not that the show isn't funny anymore, but it's not like that. I don't know. I felt like that was like really funny.
Yeah.
The Cheryl jokes like throughout the episode with the with like the clown attraction. Once again, I thought were great. I feel like, I mean, they've been doing the same thing with her the entire season, which is getting a little old, but I thought it might have been at its funniest this episode. We had a great Bechdel test commentary, like during it,
That was pretty good.
which
What did she even say? She said something weird.
she said, "Suck it, Bechdel test."
Sucktlebuck. Yeah.
After Pam
They.
and Lana were arguing, was it those two or was it
No, it
Mallory?
was Mallory and Lana.
Mallory and Lana were arguing about Archer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, she's like, "Suck a Bechdel test." Yeah, like, no, that did not pass the Bechdel test. Talking about Archer. And and I also thought one of the scenes between the maybe cops, in Key and Tenzin was was very funny. Like, I don't, maybe we'll get to it in the, I don't remember which scene it was in the outline, but like, I actually thought those are the types of scenes that are super annoying. It's like, why are we spending time with these dumb random characters? But I actually thought it was really good. I don't know.
Mhm.
So that's my defense of the episode. Is it's not like some grand kind of this was like great narratively. I also do think it did kind of interesting narrative things. Like, I think the switch at the end was kind of interesting. With like, they dress them up as clowns and they exit as real people, and then clowns aren't real people. And then at the end, they do a lot of explaining of what happened with Shapiro and Archer, and I actually thought that was kind of successful. Like, that's the type of thing that kind of annoys me usually, is just like retroactively explaining a bunch of stuff narratively, but none of that was important for what we saw on screen. So I think giving it like retroactive meaning is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. I mean, this definitely had for me like that Bechtel line was like great. Like this had I think some of the more clever jokes this season
Mm-hmm.
that we've seen so far. And maybe it's just because I'm tired. I don't know. But for me, it wasn't quite as funny as I think it was the second episode of the season that.
Yeah, that would be the only competition for me for a funniest
Yeah.
episode. I know you said the tired thing. Like, I do think that's like a legitimate thing, especially with the show at this point. Is like mood watching. I've kind of discussed
Yeah.
this before at some point, but for shows that are kind of like always the same, like kind of Archer at this point is always a constant like variable. Good or bad can really just depend on like how you're feeling, and especially
Yeah.
for kind of comedies too. I think that's a legitimate thing. So I honestly don't know how to handle that, because it's like, are my feelings real? Like, you know,
Yeah, well, and like it's Archer, like it's not even something that's like okay, anything going into its fifth season, you're going to have a certain sort of like
seventh season.
muscle memory with it at this point that you're going to be set in your ways for how you're going to respond to certain things. Something like Archer as well, where it's so dependent on motifs and running gags and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I think doubly so. So yeah, I would say like this is one of those things where you saying, I don't know, I was kind of tired and didn't like it that much is valid.
Yeah.
More so than other things.
And like, maybe it's not, I don't know, who knows if it's critically valid or whatever, how that comes into play. It's just like understandable, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like how the world works kind of. And I think it applies to a lot of stuff, but more than we'd like to think, because we'd like to think we're more objective than we are.
Than
But
my tiredness.
yeah, and me too. Maybe I'm just in a good mood now. I don't know. But that'd be rare. But I look at the AV Club review. AV Club gave this a B minus, and they gave last episode like an A or an A minus. And I'm like, what? Like, I just feel myself having the opposite reaction to almost every review that they put out. So I really think Archer Archer in its seventh season is probably super variable in opinions of episodes. I'm not sure. Let's go through the notes I took, and we can start to break it down, and we'll talk about, inevitably get into kind of larger points. I mean, the first thing I notice on my so we had this. Oh, okay. This is kind of narratively interesting in the beginning. You can maybe comment on this. Is the reintroduction? So this is part 2 of a 2-parter, and it's the reintroduction to the like the situation with this slow sweep of the mansion, with the with I guess some funny things in the background. There's like a clown eating a sandwich, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
And like just sweeping over everything in the chaos, and then eventually with the phone ringing, and then they just shoot the phone, and it's probably the cops again and stuff like that. What do you think of this as like a narrative device to get us back into the fold?
I mean, I think because like the last episode ended with them getting rid of like every hostage but the people we cared about, and then I
Yeah.
think it cut right after that, like when it showed all of them. I think it was a good setup for like the tone, since basically the entire episode from that point on took place inside the mansion, with the exception of like the cop stuff.
Yeah.
So it kind of set the tone for everything, with like things like the clowns in the background doing things, and then like the sort of like cop situation, the phone thing. Um, but other than that, I didn't really have a huge reaction to it. I mean, I thought it worked well for the beginning of the second half of a two-parter, because I honestly forgot until like right before the episode started that this was the other half of the clown episode.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like I was like, oh right, this thing. I think it functions better than some of the other setups for the second halves of their two-parters in the past. This one also, though, I think was like more, not even thematically linked, but the two-parters were like a lot more conjoined in the middle, I feel like, if that makes sense. Like it cut in a weird, because we even said last week, like I hadn't realized that it was half of a two-parter, and where it cut, it was like the episode just cut off, and it was like, okay, so clearly it's a two-parter. So I feel like it was more like one episode than other two-parters, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of this like sweeping thing in the beginning, I feel like this is probably like a really good narrative element to kind of bring us back in the episode. With these types of things for this show, I always the first thing I always think of is why are we doing this kind of serious narrative element in a show that's just so it has such an impetus to be constantly funny. Like I had somewhat of a similar reaction to this that I did the Mallory solo scenes 2 episodes ago. It's like, what's going on here? This is like a played for straight act. This was me talking my reaction to the Mallory scenes. It's like, this is a played for straight like action sequence. Like, this isn't funny. Like, what is this? And it was more just like not understanding what's happening more than anything. And I kind of was like that a little bit in the beginning of the episode. I was like, what's going on? I don't know. I have this such an expectation of Archer being such a constantly like funny or like at least like humorous tone show that whenever something like not that happens, it's a little bit jarring for me. Yeah, I don't know if that's valid because the show does have like some played for straight action sequences and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe it's also a function of it being in such a late in its like 7th season that this changes and it has to like be so much self-conscious. It can't. It's like it's such expected to tie to a formula so much. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah. We have some great Cheryl lines talking about whenever the clowns do something like menacing or anything, and she says he just soaks me, and then she says I'm so turned on I'm actually getting dehydrated.
I did think that was one of the funnier lines.
I mean, we're just doing the same. I don't know. Like I've said this last episode. Like I know we're doing the same thing with her, like the same gag.
Well, because she said something right before it that could lead up to it along the same.
Well, the soaks
line.
me, I think, it was leading up to it. Right?
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, are you like something? He's so like." It was a really funny thing because she said it, and then they were like, "Okay," and moved it over to like action on the other side of the room, and then 30 seconds later went back to her.
Yeah, the show does do that. If it's,
and she said like. That again, like it was just that was good.
Yeah, and then a few seconds later, like Archer's talking about surveying the scene as like cool raphilia. Apparently, it's a sexual attraction to clowns, which I assume is not a real term, but
no, probably not.
Maybe it is. But yeah, like I said last time, we do the same gag with Cheryl. Like all 7 seasons of the show, it's like her being. I'm not going to try to describe it, but her, and I still find it funny. So I don't know. I feel like that's a general summary for the show. It's like, it's the same thing, but it's still funny. We have the J.K. Simmons and Key cops. I don't know. We'll check back in when they do something notable, I guess. Archer takes the Zarina, I think.
Yeah,
we have the Krieger and bathroom stuff. He's like, we said only number ones. The only thing Archer's cramming is a very average sized dick into Veronica Dean's twat. Said about. I like Lana commenting on the size of Archer's dick. Like I feel like that should be the thing more often.
Average size.
What do we think?
I didn't catch that the first time.
Do we think Lana's telling the truth, or do we think that she's,
Probably.
or do we think that this is her just being mad at him? She's
No,
like,
I feel like the way she said it was very. She meant it very literally.
yeah, I like that. I feel like there's
Having a
more
very
of that.
average size. It didn't like I knew that she said the line, but it didn't occur to me what like the subtext, I guess,
Yeah,
of that.
it's
That's
pretty good.
actually that was a good one.
Yeah,
See, if I think back on it, this episode was actually really funny.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how many more of those there are. It's like 2 so far. Then they say that's the suck it Bechdel test type thing line. I guess that's Mallory, uh, Lana, and then there's like Cheryl and Pam there. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Archer puts the Zarina down his pants for some reason. Lana says she really needs to check in with the babysitter again with the like more AJ is the thing. Oh yeah, I remember that now type things. I feel like that's just a constant thing on the show. It's like, oh, they have a kid. Yeah, that's right. Which oh, they're like oh, Archer must be, I think this was a clever concept, like, oh, Archer must be one of the clowns right now because we haven't seen him. Which one could he be? And then there's like this green one who's just like slapping Cyril like over and over. And they're like,
Yeah.
yep, that's him. It was pretty great. Matt, what do you think of Mallory? Like, she said, "Ready when you are," and winks at the green clown, assuming it's Archer, like almost like flirting with who she thinks is her son. It's very typical
It's
of this
well, because that
dynamic.
was another line Lana said too, where she was talking about him having sex with Veronica Dean, and she was like, "What I can only assume is a way to fulfill your strange desire to have sex with your own mother," or something like
Yeah,
that. I just like that's one of the highlights of the show that I still think like works well even now is the weird relationship between Archer and Mallory. So like stuff like that I enjoy a lot.
yeah, I agree. I think it's been kind of well here, and not like a super big focus either. So it was able to
Yeah.
be subtle. We've the scene with Lana and the green clown. You're thinking it's Archer. She gives like this whole speech to him. We have a random, and then she's like, oh shit or whatever, and then fights, has to like knock out the clown says, why are your hands so big at some point, random Lana hands reference thrown in there, and then Lana ends up in her also ends up in her underwear at the end.
Which
The treat I let it never be said that the treatment of Lana in the show is very objective and like not sexist. Like
I mean, no, they do because she ends up in her underwear a lot.
and again with the throwing in like the big hands type thing and like the just the recurring jokes playing at her, whether it be not being like feminine enough or being
Yeah.
like super sexualized and stuff like that. There's a lot of that stuff. Makes you wonder a little bit what the show's
It's
perspective is.
well, the thing about it too that I would say the only defense of it is that it's always thrown at Lana. Like it's
Which yeah, that's true.
so it's not like they're doing it to like Pam and Cheryl and everyone else where they're like making comments about like it's something built into her character that they like to make like it's not saying it's great still to make fun
I think
of
the defense of it would be that it's that it's supposed to be a
like it's
recurring
not
gag
like
with her character.
a comment on the idea of traditional feminism overall. That being said, like that is still what they're making fun of.
I think
So-
that I mean I think that that's what they would say is like it's a thing with her character, and it's like the way it's presented in show. Have to wonder, if there's only, do you have to wonder whether there's some sort of racial element to this too, playing into the feminism aspect, because it's hard to refute that with no other counter evidence on the show. But yeah, we didn't talk about that too much. Maybe that's a later discussion. I think there's stuff about that. But yeah, why is she just randomly ends up in her underwear? I don't know. That's just like that's the type of stuff that makes you wonder. We have this split screen with Archer, Pam, and Lana having taken over the clowns. Okay. So here's the great scene I thought between the J.K. Simmons and Key, and I guess there's another guy there. At one point he's like, I guess Key is like the doofy one. He's like, one point he's like, freeze ray, do we have that technology? And he's like, he thought knockout gas was an actual thing. Or maybe they didn't say that. Maybe that's what actually happened. The knockout gas thing was pretty good. And then they get the phone call, and or they call him, or whatever, and it's like, he said no. And I thought J.K. Simmons' line read on that was really good, actually. Potentially rivaling any of his core work. Controversial opinion. J.K. Simmons maybe not, not on top of his game in Korra, but yeah. J.K. Simmons taking the phone call, he said no type thing was really good. I guess that's after they all. Oh, that's after like they offer them pizza, and then Key's like calzones. It's like I don't think his problems with the shape of the food, which I thought was good because it's like it's not just that it's problems like with what food it is. It's like because he said calzones, it's just a different form of pizza. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get this whole thing: Archer and Lana fighting as clowns. And then Pam gets in. He's like, "Which one should I shoot?" And then which I feel like I kind of surprised she didn't actually shoot one of them. But they're like, I mean, it wouldn't have killed them, but I feel like people do get shot on the show. Whatever happened to the guy that always got shot? I just thought of that.
I feel like he died.
Did he die? I mean,
yeah, I think he eventually died.
Okay, I think that probably happened. They're not.
I'm pretty sure I remember him like bleeding out one day.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yeah. Anyway, I randomly thought of that. Then they get into this whole Lana jealousy thing again, which I think is probably old at this point. Made out with Veronica Nina's because you flirted with Alice Crane. What the shit? Why is everybody clowns? They say when they get back in. I don't know. I kind of like the phrasing that. Why is everybody clowns? And then we have the incredible slow-mo shot with what's the lawyer's name? I didn't write it down here, but Shapiro. Yeah, he getting hit like him jumping to save Veronica, and them getting hit in the balls with the
beanbag.
And it just none of this makes any physical sense, like how he was able to get that far in slow-mo to save her, and then like going far enough to get hit there, which was like what made it great too. Archer like laughing and then gets hit, and then Cheryl says
Lana got hit.
She gets hit, and then Cheryl's like, "This is my third best birthday," which is a kind of a pretty good Cheryl line. I thought that scene was just really good. Like genuinely, I thought that was funny. Like I thought that scene was funny. I thought the scene with the phone call with the cops was like genuinely funny, and some of the earlier stuff too. Then at the end, agency. What did we learn? They throw in the how is it beanbags the toy for kids thing twice.
Yeah.
We have Archer with Shapiro presenting the itemized bill. He's like, when you hired the clowns to steal his ring, he's like, what? How did you know? Because you just told me. Did it to pay for her assurance money. Old clients of mine double crossed me. This whole thing. I don't know. It's kind of a ridiculous thing, which is why I'm glad it like wasn't the actual plot and was just thrown in there at the end.
Yeah.
Archer's demands $500,000 because they're going to pay the clown. He's going to pay the clowns $400,000. Protect Veronica Dean. Did she ask about me? No. That whole thing. There's a nice way to say that. So there you go. I don't know. Yeah. So AV Club gave this a B-. Not thrilled about that, but then again, I feel like I've differed on them most weeks. Mr. Rompers was the name of the main clown, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that didn't go anywhere with this. Like I don't know what the clowns were even for. It was kind of just like a stylistic element it ended up being.
Yeah. The one clown, Rompers.
Yeah.
That was his name. I don't know if he was a similar voice actor or maybe even the same voice actor. I don't know. I don't feel like looking it up, but he reminded me of the guy, the character on Danny Phantom, who was like the carnival master character. Like it was the same sort of over the top, just characterization, and I don't think it worked for Archer the way it worked on something like Danny Phantom, which was like a superhero show for like much younger kids. Like this came off so weird, I feel like, and it was like played for straight. Like it wasn't like they were commenting on the fact that it was like super weird at all. It just kept going. Like I think that's kind of what turned me off the clown thing, was like the main clown was just so like into the fact that he was a clown, but it didn't end up being a joke. It was like it just kept going.
they just didn't do anything with the clowns. Like
Yeah.
they're just clowns. I don't know. Like the only interesting thing is the swap at the end, but they could have been anything.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. So I don't know. I feel like maybe thematically the episode was somewhat unfulfilling.
Yeah.
I do think they tried interesting narrative things with becoming the clowns and the interactions between Archer, Lana, and Pam. I do think Pam seems out of place. I don't know. I feel like they don't really have Pam's not doing anything at the moment, and they don't really know what they want to do with Pam.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I also think that the Archer and Lana jealousy dynamic is tired, and they should stop doing that. But other than that, kind of I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Like, but again, I don't really care about any of that. I don't know. It's the show at this point. I just want it to be funny, I guess, which is a little bit of a simplistic viewpoint. So I'm not crazy about thinking that, but it is the way I view the show at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What grade would you give it on the AV Club scale?
I mean, I have to go with, I guess, because as funny as I found it in hindsight and talking about some of the jokes, I still just overall was not impressed with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say it's my least favorite so far of the season. I'd probably give it a C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's your lowest grade. And I guess I'd give it, I guess I give it an A minus. Yeah, so it's a big difference. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And the AV Club gave it a B minus. They're closer to you. And I don't know. Like, yeah, I found Motherless Child. I think I give that like a C minus or something. Kind of crazy. Or overall, I don't know. I look back on. I mean, we probably won't because I don't know who rewatches this like season 7 Archer episodes. But if we were to rewatch, I'd be interested to see like watching both parts of Bel Panto like back to back, like once the season's over, like how it would play.
Yeah.
Could be interesting. I don't know. And it's also interesting to think how this is going to tie into the overall plot arc, even though it was kind of isolated. We brought in the cops finally. Are they really cops? Because they kind of just ran at the end when a guy came. So I don't know what's up with them. This involved Veronica and Shapiro, but also nothing really happened or anything like that. So we'll see what happens with this rest of the season. Kind of at the halfway point here.
Yeah.
7, 8. I don't know how numbers work. 7 episodes left. So. Double Indecency is next week, followed by Liquid Lunch, Deadly Velvet Part 1
Assume
and 2.
that's Double Indemnity, whatever it's called. That noir movie.
Oh yeah, that's another problem with the show. I don't understand enough of the references, like the old references. That's my fault, I guess. In English school terms,
Become
right?
culturally literate.
Yeah, isn't that what they would like say in like as like English major stuff? Like that's my fault for not understanding the references.
Yeah, it's like a joke if you don't get the illusions. Like it's like, oh, I need to become more culturally literate to understand this.
Yeah.
This illusion.
So yeah, there you go. Let us know what you thought. Wide variety of opinions on this episode. Get your predictions in for the rest of the season.
For floating the pool Archer.
I don't know when we're gonna like resolve things. Like,
well, this was like the first time we saw J.K. Simmons in real time.
Yeah, it was.
So we're moving somewhere.
Yeah, we are. I don't know what's up with them because they definitely seem like there's. I don't know if we're reading it. Maybe I'm colored by the AV Club review, which is like questioning whether they're cops or not. Maybe it's just that they ran off because they weren't handling the situation well. But I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Last thoughts on Bel Panto Part 2.
I thought that Bechtel joke was very funny.
Yeah, we'll revisit that. We'll have a top 10 best Archer jokes of the season.
It's random stuff like that where it's like, I do think it's kind of like Family Guy in the sense where some of their socially not great stuff is played as a parody. Like the fact that they make fun of Lana for having non-traditional features. Like it's less to do with, it being socially bad and more to do with like them making a commentary on people who do.
They think they're making a commentary for sure. Yeah.
Yes, that is a good way to put it. They think they.
I think the Lana being half naked all the time thing isn't really a commentary. I think that's just.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely think most of the stuff they think they're doing a commentary. Yeah, but I think one of the easiest ways of like level ones of critical thinking is like you can't just take them at face value for being
Yeah.
for thinking they're subversive, right? It's like you have to analyze that. It's like, are they or are they not? And probably not, considering the show isn't great. I would characterize the show as not great socially, but at the same time, it's maybe not as bad as I don't know, other things.
Something else.
Kind of half of other TV, actually, thinking about it, right? So, whatever.
What's the line where it's I have to turn off I once again must turn off my feminist sensibilities to enjoy this piece of entertainment media.
Yeah, that's
lest I become incensed and outraged.
Accurate. Me watching Archer. Accurate.
Yes.
Less so than other shows, though. Yeah. They do try to do somewhat interesting things with Lana and that and parodies, but I don't know. We should probably talk about how successful it is. That's the type of perspective we bring to it, but
yeah,
maybe for that'll come up for a different episode. Anyway, I'm Del Nice. That's Mel Moyer, overlyanimated.com. Find out everything about the podcast. Support us on patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you to our patrons, Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, Rachel, John, Ryan, and Catherine, aka Hey Now Fever, Mitch, Cornelius, Beatrice, Nathan, Fillion, Buzz Lightyear, Mailman, Richard, Johnny Brown, Brian, and Cook Cat. Yeah, that was record speed. Coming up next in the Overly Animated podcast tomorrow, our weekly Steven Universe Roundtable. Steven Universe episodes are back new next week. A big deal. That wasn't sarcastic. It's a big deal. And me and Delaney's Miraculous Ladybug coverage coming up over the weekend. Catch it all at overlyanimated.com. And of course, we'll be back covering Archer next week. Last comments, Mel?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Adios.